You guys, imagine this. Ladies and gentlemen of this great nation, we, the Republican Party, hereby endorse Donald J. Trump for president. The crazy part is, you might not need to imagine it. That may actually happen. We, the Republican Party, represent about 40% of this country, and the face of this party will now be Donald J. Trump. He is a man Yep. At the time of this recording, Donald Trump has 739 delegates of a required 1,237 to secure the nomination. Nate Silver and 538.com have him projected to get 1,208 delegates by the time all the state's primaries are through. That would leave him 31 votes short of securing the nomination for the Republican Party, which could create what is called a brokered convention. Lately on the news, they've been trying to call it an open convention, because that sounds like their party is more unified than it really is. What could happen there is confirm what many people in this country already fear about politics, and that's that their votes don't really count. To break it down in the quickest, most simplistic way possible, when a candidate wins a state or gains a percentage of a state's vote in the primary election, they're assigned delegates. And those delegates are actual people that have to vote for that person. But that is only in the first vote. If no one gets that 1,237 required delegates, they vote again. And that is where all the problems could come up, because those delegates are no longer required to vote for their assigned candidate. They could vote for anyone they wanted, regardless of who has the most votes nationwide, who has the most delegates, who's won the most states. The Republican delegates could choose whoever they want, even if it means that they're not even running right now. That could be Mitt Romney. He didn't even have to shell out a nickel. Paul Ryan, John McCain again, Barbara Bush, or Sean. What's up? Vote Sean 2016. Don't vote Sean. In doing this, of course, they would cite the for the good of the party, but is it really for the good of the party? So let's break that down just a little bit. In my view, one of two things is gonna happen at the Republican convention this year. First, we just have to concede that Trump will be the delegate leading candidate going into the convention. While I know that's not a certainty, it does have all the polls and facts to back it up to make that claim substantial. So the first option is that the Republican establishment chooses someone like Ted Cruz, John Kasich, or someone entirely different from the leading vote getter in their party. And by doing that, they would be telling the 35 to 40% of people that voted for Donald Trump in the primary elections that their vote and their voice just don't count. That could create chaos in the Republican Party. Probably the whole system, but mostly for the GOP. It could create a complete separation of the Republican Party, though it isn't clear who would go where, because Ted Cruz is a giant Tea Party guy and the establishment Republicans typically hate them too. Ted Cruz is second in delegates and will likely finish that. Trump has said, and they even forced him to sign something that said that he would not run a third-party campaign. But his caveat to that was that the Republican establishment had to play fair. And while choosing a different nominee wouldn't be against the rules, choosing someone that clearly wasn't the leading vote getter would be kind of shady, and you'd have to assume that Trump or any candidate really would consider that foul play. If he were to run a third-party campaign for the presidency, he would likely take 35 to 40% of those Republican voters with him, splitting the Republican vote and ensuring victory for the Democratic candidate likely Hillary Clinton. And if he didn't run a third-party campaign, he may take those voters with him anyway who feel disenfranchised because they went out and voted for their favorite candidate and got shafted. Their guy essentially won, but because of the politics and the rules surrounding it, they're like, to hell with you guys. May have an atomic bomb in their convention, figuratively. To be completely fair, these rules were put in place to prevent a person like Donald Trump getting the nomination for the party. The other option that I mentioned at the beginning of this video is that the Republican establishment actually back Trump and endorse him, allowing a polarizing figure to be the face of their party for the next 4+ years. Because even if he doesn't win the presidency, he's the face that they put out there. The Republican establishment would have to accept Trump, all of his baggage, all of the rhetoric, and run with it. Because at the same time, the Democrats will be holding their convention, and they're likely going to be celebrating their candidate, Hillary Clinton, or Bernie Sanders. Hey, there's still a shot. The convention is designed to celebrate the candidate, to put them on a national platform and say, this is who we like, this is why we like them, and this is why you should like them too. For the Democrats, that's not going to be that hard, because politics aside, Hillary Clinton has a record she can run on. Whether you agree with her politically or not, she was a senator from New York, a secretary of state. She's fought for women's rights for the last 3 decades. That's stuff that the Democratic establishment can get behind. And if it's Bernie Sanders, he's been a long-term senator. He's been on the right side of history for 50 years. That's stuff the Democratic convention can get behind. So the Republicans would have to take the positives of Donald Trump and do what they can with it. He's a businessman. That's good. He's a self-made billionaire. That's cool too. I mean, they'll make it like he's a job creator, but they're gonna have to deal with his business's bankruptcies and the fact that he's never really worked in the private sector. So the Republicans will have to defend this. And while bankruptcy happens in the business world, it just does. This guy's about to take on a country, not a business, already with a $19 trillion debt. And as far as the self-made billionaire thing goes, that's allegedly because no one really knows how much he makes. I'm going based on memory, but according to PolitiFact, a non-partisan website that just gets the facts of what these candidates say and gives them a rating based on absolutely true to pants on fire, Donald Trump lies in the 70% range. That is mostly false, or pants on fire. Compare that to Hillary Clinton, who PolitiFact rates at 28%, or Bernie Sanders at 31%. So it's really hard to take whatever this guy says at face value. But these aren't bad claims, and the Republicans can trump those up. Pun completely intended. But in doing so, they also have to accept this.
John McCain, a war hero, 5.5 years as a POW, and you call him a dummy.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured.
Trump has a following, a very definitive, loyal following. But he is also very polarizing, and that's in his own party. In the primary so far, and of course this is taking into consideration that there have been as many as 17 nominees on the ballot for the Republicans, Trump has yet to get a majority in any state. He just came close in Arizona, getting 47%, but he has yet to cross the 50% mark of Republican voters. The last 4 presidential elections have come down to swing voters and swing states. Those are the voters and the states in the middle that can swing either way, Republican or Democrat, or in 2000 to Ralph Nader. Thanks, Florida. Appreciate that. And the last 2 elections, in 2008 and 2012, those swing states have gone heavily in favor of Barack Obama. So if we add up the combined swing states of Colorado, Ohio, Virginia, Florida, and Pennsylvania, Barack Obama in 2008 won by 1.3 million votes. And while relatively that's not a huge margin, it is significant. 2012 was a bit slimmer, winning by only 830,000 votes in those states. That's combined, of course. But still, he took them. And in those elections, he was facing fairly formidable opponents. John McCain, a longtime senator, a war hero, an all-around good dude. Mitt Romney, the guy who looks like a freaking Ken doll. In the general election, with the candidate's own party having a huge amount of voters actively against him, and the unlikeliness of convincing those far more progressive swing voters to vote for Trump, the GOP knows that they would have a hard time winning in November with Trump as their nominee.
I went to an Ivy League school. I'm very highly educated. I know words. I have the best words.
They also know that they'd have a really hard time not picking Trump because it would cut about half of their voter base. The establishment knows this, and that's why they are stuck with a choice of either nominating someone completely different and willingly divide their party, or accept this guy.
I will build a great, great wall on our southern border, and I will have Mexico pay for that wall.
How are you going to get Mexico to pay for a wall?
Mexico will pay, you mark my words. I win, Mexico pays.
And that could split it anyway. Thanks for watching. I tried to keep it short and educational and not politically motivated, just wanted to give a breakdown as to what is going on in the Republican field because it is chaos, dudes. Did I leave out a third option? I guess I just can't think of anything that could go well at this point. Do they pick a guy like John Kasich and then everyone in the Republican Party just goes, yeah, that's a good choice, including Trump and Cruz and everyone else? I can't possibly imagine that going well for pretty much anyone. So like, comment, be respectful, of course, and I need a tagline.
I read the Washington Post, I read the Fusion, I read the Huffington Post, and that's about women being raped. It's not about criminals coming across the border or entering the country.
Well, somebody's doing the raping, Don. I mean, you know, somebody's doing the, you're saying it's women being raped. Well, who's doing the raping?
Go Donald.